Hello everybody. Welcome to another Mindful Monday. This is the third Mindful Monday that we've done now. And today is going to be more of a chatty one. I'm not going to be doing a practice today. We're just going to be diving a little deeper into a bit about why we're doing what we're doing. We're going to be looking at the nervous system. What actually is the nervous system? You know, a lot of yoga people, a lot of meditation practitioners, wellness practitioners, even mental health practitioners, they'll all talk about the nervous system. But what does it mean? Because the nervous system is actually quite an in-depth topic. There's more to it than just, oh yeah, it's just the nervous system. So we're going to look a little bit more into what that actually means today. So the nervous system is basically how the body, how the mind and the brain, the body and the brain talk to each other. So it's broken down, if you can imagine it almost like a tree. The nervous system is a tree. It's one idea, but from that you have all these different branches coming off it. So we're going to start with the essential part of the nervous system, the way that our bodies and our brains talk to each other, and that is breaking it down into the two main aspects. So we have the central nervous system, and then we have the peripheral nervous system. Now, unsurprisingly, the central nervous system is our spinal column and our brain. It is the thing that runs central to our bodies, and it is kind of like the main hub. From that, we have the peripheral nervous system, which unsurprisingly is to do with everything outside of that central system. So if you can imagine, you know, there's a core that runs through us, which is the brain, the stems of the brain and the spinal column. And then we have all of the nerves that come from there going to the rest of the body. So when we're feeling touch, you know, that's our nerves being stimulated, ending in our hands, and it's sending messages to our brain. So like I say, it's how the body talks to each other, but we don't just have that physical information being sent. The body is so complex and so intricate. So what we're going to be looking at is an aspect of the peripheral nervous system. So we've already taken this concept that we hear about, the nervous system, and we've broken it down into two separate sections. So what we're going to do is we're going to leave the central nervous system, and the peripheral nervous system, again, is broken down into different sections. And we're going to be looking at one aspect of the peripheral nervous system, which is the autonomic nervous system. Okay. When meditation, wellness, yoga, mental health people are talking about the nervous system, they're generally referring to the autonomic nervous system. And unsurprisingly, the autonomic nervous system governs those automatic behaviors in the body, those automatic processes in the body. So this is not an exhaustive list, but to give you an idea of some of the things that the autonomic nervous system controls, we have metabolism, we have digestion, our blood pressure, our heart rate, our breathing, and our emotional responses. These are all elements of the nervous system. Now, some of these, or a lot of these, are to do with the hormones that are being released into relation to what we feel is going on around us. So we've broken it down. We're looking at one small section of the peripheral nervous system, the autonomic nervous system, which, guess what, is broken down into even smaller parts. So this time we're now looking at the enteric, the parasympathetic, and the sympathetic nervous systems. The enteric nervous system is related to our digestional tract. So for the purposes of Mindful Mondays, we're not going to worry about the enteric nervous system at this stage. We're focusing on, with Mindful Mondays, on ways that we can build a toolkit to help us in times of stress, in times of anxiety, small, short exercises that we can do to help relieve symptoms in the moment, but also things that we can then take away and develop and actually turn into a practice to help us benefit in the long term. We're actually going to be strengthening our nervous system, strengthening our parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous systems through these practices. So we're strengthening that autonomic nervous system so that we don't necessarily, if we feel stress, then we don't necessarily feel our heart accelerating quite so much, our body temperature spiking when we feel stressed. We don't feel that so much because our nervous system is stronger. So our nervous system isn't reacting so quickly. Our sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or flight response, isn't reacting as quickly because we are developing strength in it. So let's go into a little bit more about what we mean by sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. So the parasympathetic nervous system conserves our bodily resources. Okay, it will lower our heart rate, it will lower our blood pressure, it will constrict the pupils, it will lower our body temperature, and the sympathetic nervous system prepares our body for that fight or flight. So anytime you're feeling the physical effects of stress or anxiety, it is your parasympathetic nervous system that you are feeling. That parasympathetic nervous system has engaged and it is sending messages to the brain saying, we've got a problem here. And our brain, our bodily systems are still wired for almost prehistoric life. You know, we haven't evolved in that way yet to recognize even something as simple as this is a notification on my phone to I'm being chased by a predator. Our bodies and our nervous system, our autonomic nervous system hasn't learned that difference yet, because if our society is elevated so quickly and escalated so quickly in terms of constant drawings on our attention. So when your phone goes, especially if you have a stressful job and it's a work message, your body is going to engage with that sympathetic nervous system and it's going to go into a state of stress, which means hormones are going to be released. It means you're going to have an increase in adrenaline. You may have an increase in cortisol, which is nicknamed a stress hormone. So those things are real tangible results from having a very fast responding sympathetic nervous system. So the parasympathetic nervous system is obviously the opposite of this fight or flight mode. It is how we rest, how we recover from stress. Like I said, it's all to do with conserving our bodily resources. Now, normally, when we're fit and healthy, mentally as well as physically, then our parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous systems, they work in sync with each other. You know, so something happens, our parasympathetic nervous system gets engaged, we deal with that issue and we go, oh, okay, that's over. And then our parasympathetic nervous system takes over and it starts to conserve those energies. It reduces our heart rate, it slows our breathing, it reduces our body temperature, all of these things. And it happens, again, it's an autonomic nervous system. It happens automatically. We don't have to do anything. Our bodies should just do this on its own. However, like I said, our modern lives are far more stressful than the body was designed to deal with. When, you know, evolutionary designed to deal with, it's happened so quickly that, you know, we just, like I said, we just haven't caught up yet. So things that might dysregulate your nervous system could be drugs and alcohol, age, autoimmune diseases, diabetes, trauma. Okay, so if you're exposed to trauma, that can have a debilitating impact on your autonomic nervous system. Exposure to long-term stress. Yeah, we used to have the expression they'd had a nervous breakdown. Okay, the autonomic nervous system could no longer cope with the exposure to the stress or the trauma or whatever that person was experiencing. And interestingly, one of the side effects of the big C virus, is some people have reported issues with their nervous system. Now, for me personally, this was one of my side effects. I had severe dizziness and tingling, and they all said that it was my body had to fight too hard. My nervous system was exhausted. So one of the reasons why I am currently looking into the nervous system and would like to share this with you is because it is a journey that I am on myself, and I would like to share what I'm learning with everybody. So if you have any of these things, or I'm going to share with you in a moment, signs for if your nervous system has become dysregulated. So perhaps you're stuck in the parasympathetic nervous system. It does happen. You're constantly tired, constantly drained. You just can't seem to get excited about anything. You feel very emotionally numb, perhaps. And then obviously sometimes we can get stuck in the sympathetic nervous system. So we're reacting to things that perhaps we weren't reacting to when we were feeling healthier. Maybe we've got a very stressful job, or things are very stressful in our home lives at the moment, and we're reacting to things, and we're feeling, our blood pressure going up or our body temperature elevating, things that we wouldn't necessarily have reacted to physiologically before. But the psychological impact is having a physical impact in the body. So things to look out for if you worry that you may have a dysregulated nervous system: problems with your vision, so your vision getting blurry perhaps where it wasn't before, changes to dizziness, your heart rate, perhaps your heart rate is more elevated than it normally is, or it's getting quite elevated quite quickly, more than normal, or perhaps you're struggling actually to elevate your heart rate. Sweating is another sign that there could be an issue with our autonomic nervous system. Perhaps you're sweating more than normal. Again, if we're feeling the physical effects of stress and anxiety, we can get the sweats. So again, if that's something you're experiencing, that could be a sign that your autonomic nervous system is not quite as in sync as it could be. And digestive issues. Quite a lot of people with IBS, yes, you may have an irritation to foods, but also a lot of people will notice an increase in their IBS, or the severity of their IBS, during periods of stress. Because again, we've got this overactive sympathetic nervous system that is causing a real physical impact in the body. Now, Mindful Mondays are not meant to be curative. Okay, this is really, 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 really important. It is just sharing with you tools and tips and techniques that can help, and we can become a practice to help strengthen our immune system. But it is not our immune system, our autonomic nervous system, but it is not an alternative to seeing a doctor or getting medical help. So if you do feel any of these things, if you are feeling more dizzy, if you are feeling more sweaty, if your heart rate is changing, your vision is becoming blurry, don't just sit and do more yoga, okay? Go speak to a doctor to rule out any more serious underlying causes. Cancer, ME, MS, all of these things are very serious and can have the same impact, and they can be medically supported. So please, 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 if you do think you have these more obvious side effects of dysregulated system, to go to a doctor. Now, there are things that we can do to help strengthen our nervous system, and therefore, our sympathetic nervous system might not get engaged so easily, so we might not feel anxiety and stress so much, or our parasympathetic nervous system may become stronger, so we're not left with the physical feelings of that stress, anxiety, that tense moment for as long. We're able to cool and calm down afterwards a lot quicker. So one of the key things is working with the vagus nerve, which is a whole nother video, which I'll do when I understand more about it myself. But short term, what we've been doing, controlling our breath. Now, I said that one of the things the autonomic system controls is our breathing. Obviously, when we're feeling stress or anxiety, our breathing starts to become more shallow. It becomes quicker. This is the nervous system reacting and having an effect on the body. But our breathing is something that we can use to program the other way. So when we feel our breathing becoming more shallow in our chest, when we feel it getting shorter, consciously taking longer, deeper breaths, using some of the breathing techniques we looked at week 1 and week 2, and we're going to look at as we go forward, using some of those techniques actually will make the parasympathetic system think it's already working and kick in. So actually the sympathetic nervous system is like, oh, okay, cool, I'm done here. And we can actually move past those uncomfortable physical sensations or mental sensations if you're suffering from racing thoughts. So short term, that is a very quick, effective strategy for helping just to get them back in line, controlling our breath. Other things that long term, improving our diet. Obviously, if our body is reacting to stress from our environment, adding additional stress to the body through our diet is obviously not going to be helpful. So trying to eat a slightly healthier, less processed diet is going to help in the long term. It's not going to be immediate, but it will be long term. You may feel some benefits from it, especially if you're someone who suffers from digestive issues as part of a dysregulated system. Obviously, meditation, building a meditation practice, it is strengthening and toning our nervous system, but like any exercise, it's going to take time to build. You don't go to the gym, lift some weights and expect to be ripped like Arnold Schwarzenegger. It takes time to develop those muscles in a healthy way. And then, like I said, improving the tone of the vagus nerve, which is something that I will do another video about in the future. Okay, so bit of a long one today, bit of a rambly one. I do have a blog post which puts everything that I've talked about in a slightly more concise format. So please head to my website at www.yogawithgeorginamay.com. And if you're watching on YouTube, please feel free to subscribe so you don't miss out on any more videos as we go forward with Mindful Mondays. And please check out my Instagram, which is Georgie May Yoga. And obviously, if you're watching on Instagram, please feel free to head over to my YouTube channel because I do have some yoga classes on there, some meditations on there as well. So sort of yoga is more bite-sized information. YouTube is more detailed information and practices and longer videos, whereas obviously my Instagram I try to keep to quite short, concise bits of information. I hope everybody has a beautiful week. Please keep using the tools and techniques that we've looked at, so box breath and the four-part breathing and stress alleviation meditation. So just to remember, we have our main nervous system that's separated into two sections, our central and our peripheral. Our peripheral is further broken down, and we have an autonomic nervous system, which is what governs impulses in the body beyond our control. And that is then divided down into three sections: the enteric, which deals with the digestive tract, the parasympathetic, and the sympathetic. So when anyone to do with yoga, meditation, wellness, spirituality, mental health, anything like that is talking about a nervous system. That's what they're talking about. They're talking about the autonomic nervous system, how our bodies react to the stress of our environment and how well we can recover from that. And that is then specifically related to our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye.